you got to do something you love. Because if you love what you do as a job as a whole, then you could tolerate the things that you don't like doing in terms of tasks.
Welcome to Unstoppable Podcast with Harry Sardinas, inspiring conversations with influential millionaires, investors, thought leaders, entrepreneurs who are making a massive difference with their innovative products and services, and sharing the challenges and wisdom of how they sold their first million.
These negative emotions that all this process, because you are have to take a lot, from your surrounding, plus for the rejection of the business itself, because people is your first. You need to find the first client. So now they don't want to buy your pro. They want a different pro. Now you have to pivot. Then where you gonna find the money? And all these emotions that we go through. Parallel with that is a lot, right? Yeah.
Well, you know what the irony of everything was? The customers loved us. That was actually that was easy once I found the right fit. Once I kept pivoting and eventually I found it was easy. The hardest part and the most challenging part was these venture capital firms and investors didn't really see the vision. And I remember, now we did find some that saw it, and we raised, I think, like $10 or $12 million as a whole over time. But what was kind of frustrating was that nobody really believed in what we were trying to accomplish. And they were so used to seeing startups that were fast growing and these sexy ideas, and machine learning at the time was like very popular. Then when I said I want to do a tire company, they're like, what? Who cares? Not a big deal.
Yeah, because they want the unicorn. They want something that is 1,000x. So you go with the business that makes sense. That is actually something tangible that everybody needs, and so on. But if they don't see the billion, they don't want to get involved. Right?
And I heard the most ridiculous rejections. I heard not enough. I heard not enough people buy tires. I heard, I heard too much competition. Too much competition. I heard, you don't have a co-founder. You don't have tech skills. And I'm like, you can hire.
You need the CTO. You need the CTO in the tech space. You have a tech business. What is your CTO? And like, man, if I sell it and I'm making profit,
you can get it.
And exactly. So
So what I had realized is being this actually very toxic at times, because there's not enough people rooting for you. Everyone is telling you why you're not going to make it. Nobody's saying why you can make it. And when people look at
with a little
like
bit of money, you can make a huge difference. But this little money, nobody wants to give it to you. And they say, well, you need more traction. Then after you have the traction and you have the thing, well, I don't know, you need bigger presence in following in social media. Then you get the following social media. There's always something.
Exactly. And the frustrating more than anything is I knew that if I just got the money I needed, it can work out, right? And so it took that work. Also start A/B testing different messaging, A/B test different ads, different images, different videos, and eventually you'll find a combination that works. But in the very early stages, you have to allot a certain budget that you're just going to throw out the window, because you need to experiment and find the right combination. And everyone has a different tolerance on what that amount is, but just know the very early stages, and you can attest to this, right? It's a game that you figure out. It's a puzzle.
It's a puzzle.
But once you figure it out, you're good. And then what happens is you can't settle. You have to keep experimenting over time, because over time, taste changes, channel mix changes, everything changes. So the best advice I can give people is try all the big channels that you know are out there, whether it's TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Google Shopping, all combination, Bing. And then when you find something that works, start investing more into that channel over time, and then start experimenting with the different ads.
Yeah. So then, Jared, the next question they're going to ask you is, how running your own business, do you have these challenges that you have to do things you like, you have to do things that you don't like?
Yep.
So how you overcome this challenge?
Well, the first step is, and this is not just something I'm saying, like something I preach and I tell people all the time, you got to do something you love. Because if you love what you do as a job as a whole, then you could tolerate the things that you don't like doing in terms of tasks.
Because, you know, when you start in a business, you have to wear all the hats. You have to be your accountant. You have
Yep.
to be your salesperson. You have to be your product person. You have to be your marketing person. There is no budget for anybody else. It's only you and your
Correct.
co-founder there. So wearing all
What I
those
would say,
hats, it can be
yeah,
sometimes overwhelming because, yeah, there are lot of things. Of course, you have to do it. I remember with my first property business, we managed to sell over 5 million. I remember 31st of December, checking the accounts with New Year Eve, checking the accounts to to get them to the.
yep.
It's not that I enjoyed this process, but it was what the business needed at the time, and I was in love with the business, so I did it, and not only 1 year.
The first,
Until we managed for 2 3 years. I ended up in New Year's Eve in the office of the accountant alone, because obviously the accountant was not there. The accountant, we opened the office. Harry, stay there. This is all the sales. Sit there and review everything carefully. We submit the stuff.
the first hire everyone should do is hire a skill that you don't like doing, where somebody should, the first hire should be a person that you know you can give tasks that you don't like doing or you can't do well. That should be the first hire that everyone should have. Because then you could stay focused on what you enjoy and what you like. And if you like it, then it doesn't feel like a job. Like for me, I never really celebrated any holidays. I didn't celebrate any family time, no birthdays of friends, nothing the first couple of years I started. I was just in it.
Me too.
I
The
was just
first
in
2 years,
it, grinding.
they are very, very immersive. Otherwise, because being, I always share, is a skill. The more you practice, the better you become. So
Yeah.
how fast do you want to develop the skill? It's like driving or swimming. If you're gonna drive a car, well, you have to practice, and eventually, there are people that even they shouldn't do that, but they talk on the phone and they drive at the same time because they have such a high skill that they can do it because they have the same with swimming. If I give you a book and I tell you, okay, read it, and after jump into the water, you'll be able to swim. It doesn't work like this. You need to jump into the pool, start to practice, and the more you practice, the better you become.
100%.
So you have to develop a skill. A skill requires practice. So the first 2 years, if you are immersed 100% in the business, you are developing the skill that get the product to the marketplace, developing the skill of how I can pivot my product at the right time, developing the skill or doing this account is something tough. As soon as I increase my sales, I will be able to. This is the first person that I want to hire because I'm wasting so much time here. So it's all. But let's talk about the things, because people might say, "Wow, so much challenges." Then I don't want to be an entrepreneur. But what they don't know is that when I start to work, it's amazing. After the first 2 years, in my case, you see, my first business was running off a pilot. I even went to my office, and my manager told me, "Harry, go home. We don't need you." I'm like, "What? You don't need printed and photocopy?" No, go home. Stay away from the. In fact, the problem in this business is you, that you come and talk to us and let us work. Go home, go on holiday. We can run this company for you. We get our own paper. And it's amazing when after these 2 years of a lot of effort, it can become something beautiful, especially when it's an online business. You can do it from everywhere. Can you imagine that?
Yeah. And when I started, I started at a time because I started the business in 2017, but I actually launched the business public until September 2019. I spent about a year and a half.
Came.
Yeah, and then COVID came as soon as I started to catch momentum.
And nobody's driving, so who needs started?
Right. And the first 2 months,
locked up.
yeah, the first 2 months, I thought I was going to go out of business. Nobody was driving the first 2 months. And then I just kept coming up with features and ideas until something stuck. And then we skyrocketed in 2020. I would say towards the end of 2020, we skyrocketed. And then 2021 took another leap, and we just kept taking leaps year after year after year. But starting a business right before COVID was terrifying. I mean, because
probably the biggest lesson, because it make you really sharp.
Yeah.
And then go ahead.
We went from having everyone in an office to build chemistry to then all of a sudden saying everyone has to work from home. And we had the old school hardwire phones. So we didn't have voice IPs like they have today.
Wow.
You know? And then when we had to have everyone work remote, we pivoted the business internally because the business model changed internally, right? All of a sudden you went from being in an office to working remote. And now we're back to like a hybrid model. But the thing is, if you're part of being a good entrepreneur is adapting to the environment you're in. In 2020 and 2022, e-commerce companies were suffering in those 2 years because the economy was all over the place. And everyone kept saying, oh, you're doing good for someone during COVID. No. You can use that as an excuse. Like, yes, there are obviously exceptions, right? Because some things just weren't operating and people weren't traveling at some point. But a good entrepreneur figures out a way to adapt regardless of the environment that they're in.
Exactly.
Outside of exceptions.
Like the positive things, everybody was at home. You know what? They can consume content. They can consume a lot of content, and then something that happened in COVID that all the because the market was uncertain, most of the company decided it was a good idea to cut the marketing budget, and it was totally the opposite. Few companies decide to do the opposite, and you know the advertising goes by beats. The more people are advertising, the higher the higher costs have to advertise. But if 80% of your competitors they are not advertising and they are
well, like let me give you a good example.
Now your cost of acquiring the clients is what was your position in the COVID times when you saw your competitors that wow, everybody's cutting the marketing budget?
We didn't cut it.
I know.
We didn't cut it.
I know.
We went in heavy.
I know.
We went in heavy.
I can tell.
Yeah,
that's why you have. But how? Why
Yeah.
you decide to do something opposite what everybody else with more experience was doing? The big companies. Because all the big companies, this is exactly what they did. They cut the marketing budget because, again, they say, okay, nobody's driving and this is an overhead, this is an expense. So remove this expense. Whether some people took this amazing approach and make a kill and got a big market share out of this.
Yeah.
So why you decide to do the opposite?
Well, look at let me give you two examples, okay? During COVID, you had a lot of restaurants that couldn't open, right? And they were suffering. So time to kind of really get that off the ground.
It's very expensive to acquire the clients.
Very expensive.
Funding without funding is, oh my God, because it's direct to consumer.
But the good news is that every entrepreneur should know is we live in a world of untapped potential. Everyone has potential if they believe in themselves. And there is always someone out there that'll believe in your idea if you keep looking far enough. You just have to make sure you find your fit and your product market fit, and investors will come over time.
Absolutely.
That's the good news, right?
So Jerry, somebody's in love with our conversation. They want to know about your company. Where can they find you? How the website, what's the name of the website?
Yep. So tireagent.com, but I'm very accessible on LinkedIn. I love helping entrepreneurs. I love giving advice. I love, teaching. So if anyone has any questions, they can reach out to me on LinkedIn with my name, and they can find me and reach out. But our website is tireagent.com. And thankfully, we are still the fastest growing online tire retailer.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You just started, my friend. So
I hope so. Long way to go.
Absolutely. Thank you
so much. And a lot of hair to lose.
Yeah. We look like twins.
That's right.
So thank you so much for your time. Pleasure. And following the broadcast, next episode of Unstoppable, how brave entrepreneur like Jared break that wall and achieve the first million. Bye for now.
Thank you.
Follow us for more interviews with world's most influential, audacious entrepreneurs that overcame challenges and adversity, providing you with the blueprint of how they sold their first million so you can grow your business exponentially.